I appreciate your stand on Second Amendment issues, but I'm not a one-issue voter. I have a real problem with some of the things that were done as far as the Indian Cultural Center, and thank goodness we dodged that bullet, but I feel like there were things that were tried and that I don't appreciate, that I don't feel like represent a conservative set of values. I also don't appreciate, you mentioned people that I truly love and really respect, such as Sarah Palin and Ted Cruz, but I'm sure, I don't know if you're aware of it, maybe that's my question, that when they endorsed you, they did not contact the Liberty community to ask us our opinion at all. And we actually got together and signed a letter and sent to them condemning their endorsement because of the fact that they didn't allow us to be involved. And now you come here, your major opponents are not in the room, but I've been to several forums and debates. You're not there. I want to know why. I want to know why you feel it's okay to avoid the people of Oklahoma.
Well, first, let me take issue. I disagree with the premise of your question, first of all. First of all, you don't only solely represent the Liberty community, and I take issue with you saying that. People who love and fear are God-fearing people and respect the Constitution, they don't have to answer to you, me, or anybody else. They can get behind whoever they want, whoever they think is the right candidate, and they can support them, because that's what Liberty is about. Second of all, this idea that I haven't shown up to debates is just not true. It's been put out by people that are supporting another candidate, and that's evident. We've done over 4 or 5 debates now that I participated in. In fact, we did one in Tulsa just on Friday with Pat Campbell, one of the most conservative radio talk show hosts in the state. And not only did we participate in it, but Pat Campbell said we hands down won the debate. We've done 2 in Oklahoma County, but the idea that we can attend every single one that's out there, it's just not going to happen. It can't happen in a campaign that normally you have 12 to 18 months to participate in. We've got 4 months. We've had 4 months to put together a campaign. We've got other debates scheduled. We've got one scheduled that's going to be done here in Oklahoma County. We've done 2 in Tulsa, 2 in Oklahoma County. We participated in other forums around the state. I mean, we get invited to a lot of things, and we're not going to be able to be at every single one. But I will tell you, where I stand on the issues has been made apparent based upon my voting record, based upon my website, and based on things that we've said, and we continue to be there. As for the Indian Cultural Center, you're right. It's a bad deal. The idea that that the Indian Cultural Center is something that the state of Oklahoma should have to, deal with is something I'd rather we didn't have to deal with. But the fact is, we do. And you know how much it's costing us right now to do nothing? $5 million a year. $5 million a year is what you're paying in taxpayer dollars every year to support an unfinished product. I didn't start that. Now, one of the things you may know that I was very instrumental in is focusing on underutilized properties for the state. It's something that I feel very passionate about. You go into any community in Oklahoma, whether rural or urban, and you can find all kind of underutilized properties. The Indian Cultural Center is one of them. You have 2 options. Well, I guess you have 3. One of them is one that we've continued to do, and that's just ignore it and pretend it's not there. I don't think that's a prudent use of taxpayer dollars. You've got one of 2 issues. You can either rehabilitate it and get it moving, or you can sell it and get rid of it. I'd be in support of either one, whatever one the people of Oklahoma want to do. But this idea that we can continue to ignore it and pretend it's not there, it's just not a conservative issue to do that. It makes no sense, like we've done with other statewide properties. In fact, we took care of one. The first one, after the bill passed that I did focusing on this, we actually required that 5%, every state agency tell us what are the 5% of the most underutilized properties so that we could sell them and reinvest that money back into infrastructure needs like the Capitals. One of the reasons we didn't have to pass debt last year was because we passed a bill that, in fact, they're using it now to fix some of the infrastructure needs around the state. So you're right. This idea that the state of Oklahoma is strapped with this idea and started, it's not something I started, but I do feel an obligation to make sure that the state's assets are either being utilized or at the very least being sold and getting rid of, so that we can move on past it, but we can't continue to ignore it. So, what else we got? Yes, ma'am.
I have two things.
Introduce yourself so I know who you are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry?
Diane Engel.
Okay.
I was wondering, on the Indian Cultural Center, I'm really curious because I don't know for a lot of reasons. How did that ever become the public's problem? I thought it was private, so why is it left to us? I don't see how we're involved.
It was never private. It was always started, it's actually a state agency. Oklahoma
Is that
Indian
when you
Heritage,
cut?
pardon?
Is that when you cut? I mean, I know we have, the various tribes have their own centers and stuff.
Yeah, most of the tribes now have, well, many of the tribes have developed their own cultural centers. This one actually would be a competitor with the ones that have already been built. But this started long before I got to the legislature. In fact, Governor Fallon said the first bill, I don't know this is, from a historical standpoint, I've heard her say it, that it actually started when she was in the House of Representatives, when it was first created. And it's been, continued to be an issue for the state legislature because it is a state agency. And we've got one or two issues. In fact, I think there's now a plan working through the legislature that would, finish it so that it could be sold to the city of Oklahoma City. But what we can't do is just, pretend like it's not there, like we've done with other things on the federal level. Whether it's, the Social Security issues that we owe, the unfunded liabilities there, or you're talking about the national debt or the deficit, you name it. Politicians have a good history of just ignoring it and playing ostrich and hoping it goes away. It's not going to go away unless we deal with it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
You are?
First
Again,
of
please
all,
introduce
my name
yourself.
is Molly Jenkins.
Thank you, Molly.
And my question for you would be, I think it's really important for all voices to be heard. So I would like to know if you would support Randy Brogdon being present at the Griffin Communications debate.
People are, certainly, I'm open to anybody, debating with anybody that's in the race, and that's never an issue for me. But I also respect the authority and ability for those who are offering the forum to have who they want. I mean, I don't think I should tell OK2A who they should invite or who they shouldn't invite. It's their organ.
I don't either. I don't think that you should tell anybody who they should invite. I'm just asking
Oh, let me
if
finish.
you would be in support
Yeah.
of letting all voices be heard, because I do think it's important, and I do think he's a viable candidate, and I'm interested in what you have to say also. So I just want the opportunity to hear all of the candidates.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with debating with anybody in the race. It's not an issue for me at all. So I'll welcome. I am going to be participating in that one, and I welcome debating whoever shows up or whoever they want to show up to.
Marlene Lynch,
Yes, ma'am.
did you not propose legislation for the money for the Indian Museum?
My freshman year, there was a proposal out there that was first initiated actually by the Speaker of the House at the time, and I did sign on as an author, but we didn't move forward with it. It was never signed into law or never even made it to the House floor.
And as Speaker, nothing moved.
We didn't, as Speaker of the House, we didn't move legislation either. As Speaker, we didn't move legislation on it either because there was not a consensus of how to move forward. Again, it's very, very easy to, come up with issues, particularly when you're already committed to a candidate. And I think that's one of the things that we need to also be very upfront about. When you're committed to a candidate, it's very easy to, especially if you're not excited about the candidate you're supporting, it's very easy to try to find ways to point out what you perceive as being challenges in a voting record. But I will tell you, if you're looking at a voting record, it's important to look at it as a whole. I think you will find me to have been very consistent issues, whether it's on taxes or whether it's on other issues. I think that's what you should look for when you're supporting a candidate. So, yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering what the appropriate response is from other Republicans to our governors. You talked about not appreciating intrusion in our personal lives, and I'm not a smoker, but I work with them, and I believe there's been an executive order about where people can smoke even outside of buildings, and what is your take on that?
There's actually legislation to deal with it, and I didn't support it. The idea that we should, limit the freedoms of people, I didn't support it. And I'm not a big fan of executive orders in general, because I think sometimes I think people elect legislators to enact laws. And so executive orders, and again, I'm biased, having been a former speaker and a legislator, I'm a little biased about, I have a bias against executive orders as a whole, because I think when you're affecting public policy, people like the idea of a vote. I mean, most people can live with, as Don mentioned, I mean, when he first opened, you can live with losing a vote. I mean, people live with it all the time, but when they don't even have a chance to, I think that's where a lot of the resentment comes on issues. Send it to vote, let people decide, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. One of the reasons that we were a big champion for, 13 of the gun bills that passed while I was speaker, because I believe that they're important issues. Not only do they expand liberty, but there is debate about it. I mean, there are people that have concerns, and so if they've got concerns, let's hear it and air it out, and whoever makes the best argument, the best case, that they will win at the end of the day. Yes, ma'am.
Common Core, what are your?
Yeah, I was actually one of the first legislators to call for the repeal of Common Core that had a statewide platform. As we learn more about it, I don't think there's anybody that, you'd be very hard pressed to find people who think that we should have a nationalized standard. Probably what you're referring to is back in 2009 where there was a vote which had actually teacher pay bill in it, which is what we thought we were voting on. There was a provision in it, 2 lines in the bill, that actually opened the door for the State Department of Education to apply for a grant. Now, at the time, as my good friend Linda Murphy has pointed out, when the legislators and I, and others, I think even Senator Brogdon was in the legislature at the time and voted for it. When we voted, the Common Core standards hadn't even been developed yet. And so what later became Common Core, when I figured it out, I was the first person to say we need to get out of it, and we need to get out of it now. And so under no circumstances should the federal government be directing and dictating what our children in school are learning. I mean, in fact, as a United States Senator, I've gone on the record and said I would support and be in favor of abolishing the U.S. Department of Education.
There you go.
We spent we spent over $2 billion on the U.S. Department of Education, and you know how much improvement we've seen? Zero. We've seen zero improvement, and the reason is because it's a local control issue. It should be between parents, and it should be between local school boards and teachers, not the federal government, because, they've done so well with health care. Is that their argument of why they would want to, take over our education system too? Give me a break.
All right, one more question, because I want to make sure Representative Dorman gets his spiel for the night too. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'll just, sorry.
So have you decided about Mitch McConnell yet? Because I remember I've heard you speak before about how if you haven't really come out and said whether you're going to support Mitch McConnell or.
What I've said, I've been very consistent. I think it's arrogant to start talking about, who you're going to support in a caucus election. I think it's right up there with deciding what color drapes you're going to work at. I'm focused on winning the primary election in Oklahoma. I think that's what's most important right now. And as we move forward, we will certainly be taking a look at the options. I don't even know who's running as a candidate. I don't even know if he's going to be running as a majority leader or a minority leader. And I think what needs to be focused on are the issues pressing Oklahoma and the United States of America. And I think that's the debt. I think it's the spending. I think it's support of our United States military. And I think it's pushing back against this federal intrusion. So those are things I'm focused on. And certainly if the people of Oklahoma or the Republicans in Oklahoma decide that I'm going to be their nominee, and then we're fortunate in the general to win, I will certainly take a look at who the candidates are. And I've said this before too. I've been in caucus elections before. Joe has as well. Never in the same caucus, but we've certainly both been in caucus elections. And one thing's for sure, before when I didn't like the options in a caucus election, I ran myself. So, I think there's always never a shortage of good people who are willing to serve. But I've got to know who my options are before I know who I'm going to vote for.
Well,
I would never be that presumptuous.
If things work well, Senator McConnell may not be an issue for you even have to worry about it.
That's true.
If things really go like so.
In fact, one of the organizations that has endorsed me, the Senate Conservative Fund, has actually been one of the leading organizations to annihilate Mitch McConnell. So I don't know where that I guess that election's coming up here.
It's tonight.
Oh, it's tonight. It is that quick. I thought it was next
Yeah,
week.
so we'll know.